Hi everyone. Today I want to spend about 10 to 12 minutes talking about consistency of sound. How can we work on our sound across our range to make our sound more consistent, more similar when we're playing high to when we're playing low? I'm going to base all of this around a diminished arpeggio. I think the diminished arpeggio, which is just minor thirds working in either direction, this is a great way to move up and down through the range in a way that does not have any larger breaks that can be problematic. So I think one of the primary techniques that's effective is spidering, where you start in a comfortable area of your range where you sound good, where you like the way that you sound, and to spider, meaning move up and down away from that middle point. So you go up or down in either way. So here's how we're going to start. We're going to start on a middle C, which I think is a great place to go, and we're going to expand in either direction. First, let's start by getting a beautiful sound that we like. It's a good, healthy mezzo forte. Now, we're going to go between an A and a C. Moving the valves a little on the slow side and forcing ourselves to blow through it. We don't want it to jerk from one note to another. We don't want it to sound like, nor do we want, it needs to be very consistent, like you're playing one note. All right, now we're going to do the same thing between C and E flat. Now connect the two. So here I'm making the notes around the C have the same timbre, the same color of sound. I'm trying to avoid any abrupt changes. For instance, I don't want the sound to surge or move in any one way. So we're really aiming for the C to be our anchoring point. All right, now we'll continue to expand out. So just sort of moving outward and making it as consistent as possible. What happens when you run into a place where you really are struggling to get that consistency? This is when you can add in a chromatic or scalar movement between the notes. So for instance, so you can add that in to make it a little easier to drive through the notes. Another fun trick when you're doing this sort of exercise is to use very slow valves to force yourself to blow past. For instance, many people will find that the notes will stop and break by that you'll have a gap. It will sort of fall out like this. We want the sound to continue through it. All right, so now we can continue to spider and make our way out. A and down to D sharp. So as we continue down, I know that I start to run into a break between C and A below the staff. So I have to start paying a lot of attention to that. So all this while, just working to keep the sound as beautiful and resonant as I am able to get easily on a middle C, so that the high C winds up having the same warmth and color as my middle C and low C. So now we're going to try and extend the upper range as we continue to extend the lower range. So I get into a break point here. So when you get into these places where you have a break, it can be very useful to get a mirror and to spend time looking at the mirror while you are negotiating these points where you have to make a move with your embouchure. If you watch me again as I descend from the C to the low F sharp, I have to move something. Working with a mirror, you can help to minimize that movement. We all have to move. Some people move more, some people move less. I have a place where I have to move. You have a place where you have to maybe. So looking at the mirror can help to minimize. So you can see I have a movement, but I'm working to keep the sound consistent. So it gets to be a little challenging to keep everything together, keep the sound together, keep all of these pieces in line. And this is why it's great to always come back to that center note, your anchored C, and let that note be where you work from again. So I'm going to try and correct some of those issues that I was having. So as I'm approaching this more upper part of my register, I think it's very important not to strain or not to push to make the high notes come out. It's not very beneficial, I think, to go and to clamp down hard on it. What I'm going for is the development of an easy, comfortable sound. So I try not to strain or really change anything moving up into the upper register. Some people have the same problems in the low register. They want to clamp down and play really, really tightly. And doing these spider exercises can help to draw the ranges together and make them a little bit more simple to negotiate. So if you watch again as I'm up there, I'm trying to really stay relaxed. So there are still little breaks and things that you can work on, but overall, we're getting around the horn up above F sharp to, sort of the A area and all the way down to low F sharp. And this is a way of building consistency easily. It's also nice to spread out now, use the other two diminished scales. And focusing and actually remembering what the diminished scale is nice. So after you've worked on these sort of things, spread out through the various arpeggios, you can then challenge yourself to do it at quieter dynamics, sometimes louder dynamics, but the real long-term journey of improving your consistency of sound is just making yourself every day push your boundaries and to try to draw your sound as you like it into areas where you struggle to make that sound as beautiful as you want. A lot of us avoid playing in the places or doing the type of exercises that are challenging, that make us sound not as good as we want to sound. And finding ways to put exercises together that get you from your beautiful area to areas that you are struggling a little bit helps you to make those areas that are a challenge not feel like so much of a challenge. The arpeggio exercises that I'm using, they're just based on the diminished arpeggios, the 3 diminished arpeggios. You can find a written version of these on page 21 of the James Stamp book. And it's in his bending exercises section, but there are written diminished scales there for you. I'm sure they're in a variety of other books, but that's the first place that I can find it. After you've worked on these as well, try adding in scales, just normal scales, major, minor, chromatic, also spidering out. So it's all a work in progress. The real challenge is don't be afraid to approach the parts of your playing that don't feel as easy and comfortable as other things. So with that, I wish you all the very best. Happy December to everyone. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. All of the various things that we're celebrating. Happy entry into 2021 and the exit of 2020. I think perhaps most importantly. See you all on the next video.